The news spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Humanity was no longer the weak species the Empire had once mocked. The alien soldier, now a mere messenger of a crumbling empire, could only watch as the reality of the galaxy's new order took shape before his very eyes. His message, sent in desperation, had sparked debates in council chambers and war rooms across the stars. But it was clear that something had shifted irreversibly. The Empire, once the unchallenged ruler of the galaxy, was now on the defensive, its forces scattered and broken, its prestige shattered. The war with humanity had just begun, but the Empire was no longer in control. On Earth, the human leaders were preparing for what would come next. Their victory against the Empire had been a testament to their military prowess, but it had also been a message to every empire, every species, and every faction that had ever looked down on them. The humans had shown the galaxy that they were not to be trifled with, and that lesson would echo throughout the stars for centuries to come. But the leaders knew that the Empire's defeat was only the beginning. The galaxy was full of other, more powerful enemies, species that had watched humanity's rise with growing concern. Now that they knew what humanity was capable of, they would come. In the war rooms of the galactic powers, the news of the Empire's fall was met with a mixture of disbelief, fear, and intrigue. The humans were a paradox. They were a species that had once been deemed insignificant, a species that had never once posed a threat to the mighty forces of the galaxy. And yet, in one decisive moment, they had torn apart the Empire's forces, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. The other empires had long looked down on humanity's primitive technology, their reliance on raw physical strength, and their brutal methods of warfare. But what the galaxy's leaders failed to realize was that humanity's true strength lay not just in their weapons, but in their unyielding will to survive. As the weeks passed, whispers of rebellion began to spread. Alien soldiers who had once fought for the Empire now found themselves questioning their loyalties. Many had seen the horrors of the Empire's war machine up close, their tactics, their manipulation, their cruelty, and yet they had never imagined that humanity's resilience could bring the Empire to its knees. The realization that humans could no longer be dismissed as an insignificant species began to spread among the soldiers and citizens of the galaxy. The Empire's grip on the stars was slipping, and those who had once been loyal to its cause began to search for new allegiances. The alien soldier, now more disillusioned than ever, sat in his ship, staring at the stars that seemed so distant now. The galaxy was changing, and he knew that humanity was at the center of it all. No longer would they be the silent, forgotten species on the edge of the galaxy. They had proven themselves capable of destroying an empire, and it was only a matter of time before other forces would challenge them. He could feel the weight of what humanity's rise meant for the future of the galaxy. The Empire had underestimated them, and now they would pay the price. But the soldier also understood one thing. Humanity had a fire within them that was unmatched by any other species. Their strength was not just in their weapons, but in their unwavering belief in their right to exist. They would fight for their survival, and they would not stop until they had secured their place in the galaxy. The soldiers of the Empire had fought with pride, but humanity fought with purpose, and that made all the difference. Back on Earth, the human commanders were already discussing their next move. They knew the Empire's defeat was only the first step in a much larger conflict. The galaxy was full of dangers, and the human fleet would need to be stronger than ever to face the threats that were now closing in. But there was no fear in their eyes. They had already proven that they could defeat the Empire, and that victory had given them the confidence to face whatever lay ahead. The alien soldier could only watch as the galaxy began to prepare for what was to come. The humans had awakened something within the stars, something that could not be undone. The Empire might have fallen, but the rise of humanity had only just begun. The soldier didn't know what the future held for him, But one thing was certain. Humanity had changed the galaxy forever, and they would stop at nothing to make sure their place in the stars was secured. As the galaxy braced for the next phase of the war, the alien soldier felt a deep unease in the pit of his stomach. Humanity's power had been underestimated, but now it was impossible to ignore. And that, in itself, was the most terrifying thought of all. The galaxy was in turmoil. News of humanity's unexpected victory had rippled through the stars, and whispers of the humans' power were heard in every corner of the universe. What had once been a distant, ignored planet on the outskirts of the galaxy was now the most talked-about subject among every galactic council, warlord, and mercenary group. The humans were no longer the underdogs. They had proved their strength, and no one could deny it any longer. For the alien soldier, the situation had become personal. He had watched as his comrades in arms fell, one by one, under the brutal might of humanity's military. He had underestimated them, along with many others in the galaxy, but now he understood the full extent of their power. They were fierce, relentless, and capable of the kind of destruction that the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity had turned the tables, and now it was clear that no empire, no matter how mighty, was safe from their wrath. Back on Earth, humanity's leaders were not resting on their laurels. They knew that the victory against the Empire was only the beginning. As they regrouped, they were preparing for the next phase of the conflict. The galaxy was vast, and many more enemies lurked in the shadows, watching, waiting, plotting. But humanity had a fire in their hearts, and their resolve had only grown stronger after defeating the Empire. They would not be content with just a single victory. They were determined to assert their place in the galaxy, to show that they were a force to be reckoned with. Humanity's military commanders gathered in secret war rooms, analyzing the information they had gained from the Empire's defeated forces. They knew that they were far from invincible, but they had learned valuable lessons about the enemy's tactics, weapons, and weaknesses. With every piece of knowledge they gained, humanity's military might grew more formidable. And it was clear to them now, if they could destroy the Empire, they could defeat anyone. The galaxy's superpowers were in for a rude awakening. The alien soldier, now stationed on a distant outpost, received word that his forces were being redeployed. The command was clear: prepare for another engagement. Humanity's war machine was on the move, and the galaxy's empires had no choice but to brace for what was coming next. He stared at the transmission in disbelief. The orders were explicit: take humanity seriously now. The galaxy's once invincible fleets, filled with arrogance and pride, were now shaking in their boots, hoping that they would not be next in line to face the human juggernaut. And then, a sudden realization struck the alien soldier. He was no longer fighting just for survival. He was fighting for the future of his species. In every battle, humanity had shown an uncanny ability to adapt, to learn, and to strike when it mattered most. The days of underestimating the human race were gone. The galaxy had to learn to respect them or suffer the consequences. The alien soldier couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. His once unshakable faith in the Empire's superiority was now shattered. In the wake of humanity's rise, every battle felt uncertain, every plan seemed inadequate. The humans had proven that they could bring down even the most powerful empires, with sheer force of will and military might. The soldier had heard rumors of humanity's terrifying abilities, their ruthless tactics, and their willingness to go to any lengths to ensure their survival. Now, he feared that his own people would soon learn that the hard way. As the soldiers of his fleet prepared for what was to come, the alien soldier found himself asking a question that had never crossed his mind before. What would the galaxy look like if humanity truly ruled it? It wasn't an easy thought to entertain. The humans were unpredictable, fierce, and above all, determined. There was no questioning that humanity's influence was expanding. and it was expanding fast. The soldiers' orders were clear: confront the humans. And yet, as he looked out over the galaxy, once a realm of pride and superiority for the alien empire, he realized that the real battle had only just begun. Humanity's true power wasn't just in their military might, but in their will to never give up. And that, he now knew, was the one force in the galaxy that could never be defeated. The final chapter of the war was being written, and the soldier understood that his own fate, and the fate of his species, was tied to the outcome. There would be no running from humanity now. As the countdown to the next battle began, the galaxy held its breath. Would humanity's rise be the ultimate triumph? Or would the galaxy's empires find a way to crush them before they could fully emerge? One thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. The soldier's eyes narrowed as he prepared for the coming storm. Humanity had made its mark, and nothing, absolutely nothing, could erase it from the stars. The battlefield raged on as alien warships splintered and exploded in the wake of humanity's assault. The soldier, once so sure of his species' superiority, watched in stunned silence as the impossible unfolded before his eyes. The human forces were relentless, their precision terrifying, and their resolve unyielding. Each strike they made shattered any illusion that the Empire's fleet was invincible. He had seen his share of battles, had watched countless species fall before the might of the Empire, but this was different. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were fighting with a ferocity and purpose he had never witnessed in any other species. It was as if the very survival of their civilization depended on their victory, and they would stop at nothing to secure it. With each passing minute, the alien soldiers' disbelief grew. What was it about humanity that made them so dangerous? He had thought their technology was primitive, their military strategies disorganized and weak. How had they hidden their true potential for so long? The soldier's mind raced as the realization dawned on him. Humanity had been preparing for this moment, and the galaxy had overlooked them, dismissed them as nothing more than an insignificant threat. Now, as the alien fleet faltered, it was clear that humanity's power was something no one had anticipated. In the command center of the human fleet, a sense of calm prevailed. Despite the chaos unfolding around them, the human commanders were resolute. They had been waiting for this moment, training for years, knowing that the galaxy would one day turn its eyes to Earth. And when it did, humanity would be ready, not just to survive, but to dominate. The aliens had underestimated them, and now the humans would make them pay for their arrogance. As the soldier's ship hovered in the distance, observing the carnage, he could see the once formidable alien fleet crumbling under the human onslaught. The Empire's flagship, a massive vessel that had struck fear into the hearts of countless civilizations, was already showing signs of critical damage. Human ships, smaller and less advanced in appearance, moved with calculated precision, striking at the heart of the Empire's defenses with deadly accuracy. It was a sight that no one had expected to witness, least of all the soldier himself. He had believed in the Empire's supremacy, had trusted that their technology and sheer numbers would be enough to crush any opposition. But now, standing on the edge of this horrifying reality, the soldier understood just how wrong he had been. The humans were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting to prove a point, to show the galaxy that they were not weak, that they were not the helpless creatures the Empire had once believed them to be. The soldier's grip tightened on the controls of his ship as he realized that if the Empire didn't act quickly, they would lose everything. In the midst of the chaos, the soldier tried to contact his superiors. He needed to warn them, to tell them that the humans were unlike anything they had ever encountered. But as the connection crackled to life, his message was met with disbelief. The commanding officer on the other end scoffed at his warnings, dismissing them as mere panic. "The humans are nothing," the officer had said. We'll crush them like the rest. But the soldier knew better. The humans weren't like the rest. They weren't just fighting to defend their world. They were fighting to show the galaxy that they had been underestimated for far too long. That arrogance would be their undoing. As the battle raged on, the soldiers' eyes fixed on the human flagship, the beacon of humanity's strength. The massive ship unleashed a final wave of firepower that decimated the Empire's command ship, sending it spiraling out of control. The fleet was in disarray. The aliens were fleeing, retreating into the stars, knowing that they had underestimated humanity in the worst possible way. The soldier's heart raced. He had never seen anything like this before. The humans had turned the tide of the battle in a matter of hours, and the Empire's once great fleet was now on the brink of annihilation. The alien forces that had once dominated the galaxy were now nothing more than fleeing shadows, and it was humanity's unrelenting force that had brought them to their knees. The soldier's mind began to race with questions. What had driven humanity to fight like this? How had they become so powerful so quickly? What did they want, and what would they do once they had won? The answers were elusive, but one thing was clear. Humanity was no longer just a footnote in the galaxy's history. They were a force to be reckoned with. As the final remnants of the Empire's fleet disappeared into the distance, the soldier knew that the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had proven itself as a powerful, unyielding force, and the rest of the galaxy would have to learn to respect them, or face the consequences. The aftermath of the battle left the battlefield eerily silent. The only sound, the faint hum of human ships as they circled the remains of the once proud Empire fleet. The alien soldier, his ship now a silent witness to the aftermath, stared out into the vast expanse of space. The destruction he had witnessed was beyond anything he had imagined possible. The Empire's might, built on centuries of power and dominance, had crumbled under the assault of a species thought to be insignificant. For the first time in his life, the soldier questioned everything he had been taught. He had been trained to believe in the superiority of the Empire, in the invincibility of its forces. And yet, here he was, staring at the remains of the once feared fleet. Humanity had not just survived, they had obliterated the Empire's forces, with an efficiency and brutality that was beyond comprehension. He had seen entire civilizations bow before the might of the Empire. But this was different. As the human fleet continued its victory lap, the soldier's mind raced. How had humanity managed to hide its power for so long? For centuries, they had been ignored, ridiculed, and underestimated. But now, the galaxy had seen their true strength. There was no going back. The humans had proven themselves as a force to be reckoned with, and worse, they had done it in such a way that no one could ignore them. The soldier's ship remained stationary as he transmitted a message to his superiors. He had to tell them everything. He had to make them understand that the humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were a threat, one that could not be dismissed. But as he waited for a response, he realized that the message he was about to send would not be taken seriously. The Empire had always scoffed at humanity's potential, believing their primitive nature was nothing more than a brief spark in the galaxy's long history. But now, humanity had proven that their spark could ignite an unstoppable inferno. The soldier's transmission was met with skepticism. His superiors dismissed his warnings as nothing more than the ramblings of a frightened soldier. "The humans are nothing," the commanding officer replied coldly. "We'll crush them, just like we've done with countless other species." The officer's voice was filled with arrogance, as though nothing could possibly challenge the Empire's supremacy. But the soldier knew better. The battle he had just witnessed had been a wake-up call for the galaxy. The humans weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting to prove something. They were showing the universe that their strength was not to be underestimated, that their potential had been hidden beneath layers of ignorance and dismissal. And now, That power had been unleashed, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the soldier's ship drifted through the wreckage of the Empire's fleet, he realized that humanity had just begun. The galaxy's perception of them had shifted, and the road ahead would be one of unprecedented power. The human race had a taste of victory, and there was no telling what they would do next. Far below, on Earth, the leaders of the human fleet prepared for the next phase of their plan. They knew the battle was far from over. While the Empire's fleet had been decimated, other factions and empires throughout the galaxy were now taking notice. Humanity's strength had shaken the galaxy to its core, but it was only a matter of time before new threats emerged. The humans were ready, however, more prepared than ever to face whatever came next. Back in the alien soldier's ship, he could feel the weight of what had just happened. Humanity was no longer just a species on the fringes of galactic conflict. They were now the center of it. The soldier had witnessed the full scope of their power, and he knew that the next time the galaxy crossed paths with Earth, it would be a very different encounter. The Empire might have underestimated humanity's potential, but no one would make that mistake again. The soldier didn't know what the future held for his people, but one thing was clear. The era of the Empire's dominance was over. Humanity's moment had arrived, and the galaxy would never forget the day they underestimated the true power of Earth. The alien soldier's heart pounded as he stared at the humans before him. He had heard the rumors, of course, the stories of their power, but he never truly believed them. After all, how could such a young species be so dangerous? Their technology wasn't nearly as advanced as his own species, and their numbers were nothing compared to the vast empires of the galaxy. Yet here he stood, witnessing something that made him question everything he thought he knew about humanity. It had started, like any other routine mission. The Empire had sent its forces to survey a seemingly insignificant planet on the edge of their territory. Earth, they had called it. The humans had been primitive, weak, and divided, according to the Empire's data. A planet with no true military might, and no real threat to the Empire's dominance. The Council had dismissed Earth as nothing more than a minor annoyance, a place with little worth. But that was before they sent an alien soldier to investigate. The mission had been simple. The Empire needed information, and this soldier was just one of many in their vast war machine. He was not prepared for what he would discover. The first sign that things were not as they seemed came when he landed on Earth's surface. There were no grand defenses, no massive walls or advanced weapons. It was a simple, peaceful world, or so it appeared on the outside. But as he ventured deeper into the planet, things began to change. The humans were everywhere, but they didn't cower or hide. Instead, they seemed to be preparing for something they were waiting for, but he couldn't tell what. The soldier wasn't sure what to expect. He'd seen countless civilizations, each more technologically advanced than the last, and none had prepared him for what he was about to witness. It was when he reached the human capital city that the true shock hit. It wasn't their technology that amazed him. It was their determination, their unity, their will to fight. The humans had been waiting, it seemed, for a long time, waiting for something the Empire had not anticipated. The soldier watched as humans gathered, each one with a sense of purpose, as if they were preparing to face an enemy far greater than they were. The alien had no idea who this enemy was, but he would soon learn. The first sign of humanity's hidden strength came when the soldier encountered a group of humans who were training. These weren't just ordinary soldiers either. No, they were veterans of an ancient battle, people who had seen things the alien could not even comprehend. Their movements were precise, calculated, and powerful. They weren't just using weapons. They were using their minds, their instincts, and something else. Their unwavering belief that they could win. He had underestimated them before, but now, standing in front of these warriors, he understood. Humanity's strength was not just in their weapons, but in their hearts. The alien soldier couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. It was a feeling he had felt before on countless worlds, but this was different. This was deeper, more primal. It was then that he realized the humans had a hidden strength, something that no other species in the galaxy had. It was not just their ability to fight, but their refusal to ever give up. They would fight to the last breath, even when the odds seemed impossible. As the soldier watched the humans prepare, a sense of dread settled over him. He had been sent here to assess the humans, to see if they were a threat to the Empire. But now, he could feel something changing inside of him. He had seen empires rise and fall, but nothing like this. He was watching the birth of something far more dangerous than any army he had ever encountered. Humanity was no longer just a small, weak species on the edge of the galaxy. They were becoming a force to be reckoned with. But the true shock came when the humans finally showed him what they were truly capable of. It wasn't in the weapons they used or the technology they had. It was in their sheer willpower. The soldier watched in disbelief as the humans fought together, each one pushing their limits, refusing to back down. They weren't just defending their world, they were defending their future. In that moment, the alien soldier realized the truth. He had underestimated them. Humanity's power was not in their technology, their military strength, or their numbers. It was in their unity, their spirit, and their ability to fight against all odds. The soldier had come to this world thinking he would find an easy target, but instead, he found something much more terrifying. He had found a species that would never back down. As the soldier turned to leave, his mind was racing. He knew the Empire would not take kindly to this discovery, but he also knew that things had changed. The humans were no longer the weak, divided species they had once been. They were a force that could challenge the Empire itself. And as the soldier made his way back to his ship, he understood one thing clearly. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Not now, and not ever again. The alien soldier had barely left the human capital when his mind kept replaying the images of the humans he had encountered, their strength, their unity. It was as if he had uncovered a truth that had been hidden in plain sight. But what was it about humanity that made them so resilient? Why did they seem so determined to fight, even when the odds were against them? He had seen countless civilizations come and go, but none like this. He couldn't help but wonder, could the Empire truly understand the danger that was rising on Earth? As he boarded his ship and prepared to leave the planet's atmosphere, the soldier's thoughts were a swirl of confusion and fear. He had underestimated them. That much was clear. But now something else gnawed at him. The way the humans fought, their determination. It wasn't just about survival. There was something deeper at play. Something he couldn't fully grasp yet. But he needed to. Back in the Empire's fleet, the soldier's report was met with skepticism. His superiors didn't take kindly to the idea that a species as young as humanity could pose a real threat. To them, the humans were nothing more than a footnote in the grand scheme of the galaxy. They had been weak once, and they had no reason to believe they had become anything more than that. The soldier was dismissed, told that his findings were exaggerated, even laughed at by some. But deep down, he knew that the humans were hiding something far beyond what he could report. The days passed, but his concerns grew. The more he thought about what he had seen on Earth, the more certain he became that the humans were not just fighting for survival, they were preparing for something. They were ready for war. But why? What had they seen that made them so desperate? The soldier couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. He decided he needed to return to Earth to find out the truth. But this time, he would not be the one to underestimate them. A few weeks later, the soldier found himself back on the outskirts of Earth's atmosphere, this time with a larger fleet at his back. The Empire had finally taken his warnings seriously, but only because they had begun receiving strange, unexplainable signals coming from the planet. signals that couldn't be ignored. Humanity's power was no longer a myth. It was something tangible, and now the Empire was paying attention. But even as they prepared to invade, the soldier couldn't shake the unease in his gut. The humans weren't like other species. They didn't act like other species. There was something different about them, and as the fleet moved closer, he saw it. The humans were ready, but they weren't panicking. They weren't scared. They were calm, almost too calm. It was as if they were waiting for something big. The alien soldier's eyes widened as the first signs of humanity's true strength revealed themselves. Out of nowhere, massive, warships began to appear on the edges of Earth's atmosphere. These weren't the kinds of ships the soldier had seen before. These were far more advanced, far more terrifying. The humans had been hiding their true technology from the galaxy, and now it was clear. They had weapons that could rival anything the Empire had ever seen. The soldier had thought that the humans were a joke. He had thought they were weak. But now, standing on the edge of their planet, he realized how wrong he had been. These were not the people he had encountered during his initial mission. These were soldiers, warriors, and they were ready for war. As the alien fleet moved into position, the soldier's heart sank. The Empire's superior technology and vast numbers didn't matter anymore. The humans had prepared for this moment, and they weren't going down without a fight. The soldier couldn't help but wonder how many others had underestimated humanity's strength, how many others had made the same mistake he had. And now, as he watched the humans ready their defenses, he realized something even more terrifying. Humanity wasn't just ready to fight, they were ready to win. The first shots were fired. The soldier watched in disbelief as humanity's warships unleashed a barrage of firepower that shattered the alien fleet's shields. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The humans were relentless, their weapons cutting through the Empire's forces with terrifying precision. They fought with the intensity of a species that had nothing to lose, a species that had been underestimated for far too long. The Empire's fleet was caught off guard. They had thought the humans would be easy to conquer. Instead, they were, witnessing a nightmare unfolding before their eyes. The alien soldiers scrambled to regain control, but it was already too late. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the battle raged on, the soldier's mind